very exciting to be here. As I said, some thought we would never get to this point.
Public Works Director and County Engineer Jim Harriet has every reason to be relieved and proud on this particular day. It was the day of the ribbon cutting, a symbol that the long-awaited, much discussed, much maligned, and finally much praised Honore Avenue construction project was finally done. By finishing a stretch of road between Bee Ridge and Fruitville, Honore Avenue was now a major north-south thoroughfare, stretching all the way from Manatee County on the north to Osprey and Nokomis on the south. Not a 6-lane highway, as had been proposed 20 years ago, not a 4-lane stretch, as was proposed a decade ago, but a return to an old idea that is brand new again, a 2-lane road with sidewalks and trees and greenery.
It's an example of a new way of building a road. At least we think it's new. I've searched the internet. I've searched communities in Florida. I've tried to find other places where they've done this type of LID green approach project to a roadway corridor, where they've decided instead of 4 lanes, let's go ahead and do 2 lanes, even though all the traffic engineers said do 4 lanes. And I can't find one anywhere. Since it's been completed in the last few weeks, in the last few months as it's been completed, I have yet to hear a single person say, gee, I wish you'd built 4 lanes.
So why the change from 6 lanes to 4 lanes and finally to 2? Well, it was a bit of serendipity.
Sometimes having too little money drives you to the right solution. And that really was the catalyst that brought us here to a 2-lane, beautiful, well-engineered project that respects people's neighborhoods.
One of the things that projects like this does for a community is it brings us together. Whether we have differences or not, it brings us together. I don't think anybody in their right mind can say that this road isn't a huge improvement to the entire Sarasota community.
I would have to think that the original plan for the multiple lane widths was all about automobiles. And this plan that has unfolded is about automobiles and bicycles and the bike path and people having nice wide sidewalks and having some green space as part of all that.
The Honore project was beset on all sides with problems that had to be solved, not the least of which was Fruitville Elementary School and the huge volume of traffic that would be affected by this major construction project only 50 yards or so from the school front door.
The county really did go out of their way to make sure that the impact on the school was going to be minimal and that the access to the school would be the best that it could be when the project was done.
In order to interfere as little as possible with the operation of the school, Sarasota County began road construction in front of Fruitville Elementary the day after school was out in the summer of 2010 and finished that portion of the road on the day before school went back into session in the fall. Traffic engineers paid particular attention to the main school entrance at Honore and Sawgrass.
One of the pluses, at least, that we believe happened is actually the roundabout, which those roundabouts tend to be rather controversial. And again, we were asked for our input into the extent to which a roundabout was going to work there at the, again, at the Sawgrass Honore intersection. A little bit wary of something new like that in the extent to which it would work. Also, whether the turning radius of the roundabout would accommodate school buses. And after our study, we came to believe that the engineers and the consultants knew what they were doing, and we passed on that and allowed them to proceed without any objection.
So a roundabout was built in front of the school, one of 6 roundabouts on the whole Honore project. Fears that school buses would have trouble negotiating the circular drive proved to be unfounded. In fact, travel near the school may be safer now than it's ever been.
The traffic system worked well. The roundabout was not an impediment, and I tend to believe was actually a good way of designing that particular intersection.
The general consensus is that it has slowed traffic down in front of the school. And while that might not be a happy thing for, others in the community who are trying to use Honore Ave to get where they're going quickly, it's a happy thing for our school because they can't go quickly past the school, and we don't want them to. We want them to be really cautious and safe around our children, and so it's met that need of safety for us.
As students returned to school, road crews continued to work just to the south. A dangerous intersection of Honore Avenue at Palmer was upgraded. There's now a roundabout there. People who live in the Colonial Oaks area discovered that it was much safer getting into and out of their neighborhood with the new road. All the way down to Bee Ridge, what was once a battered two-lane road or no road at all started emerging as a beautiful thoroughfare, just as the architects and planners had foreseen. And on top of everything, Honore Avenue turned out to be a bargain.
We started designing the project in middle of 2009, and we broke ground in September of 2009. So that chronology is really fast-track when you consider the process it takes to design and start construction of a highway. The construction cost reduced from an estimated $22 million to approximately $14 million. Right-of-way cost was estimated at over $10 million, with numerous parcels yet to be acquired with the 4-lane design. With the change to the 2-lane design, we only needed 4 additional parcels, and the cost of those were minimal.
One of the problems faced by the architects and planners was to build a roadway through neighborhoods where, in some cases, there had been no such invasion before.
This was a unique corridor in that most highway projects are bordered by front yards and driveways. In this case, in a large stretch from Bee Ridge Road all the way up to Weber, we were bordered by backyards because there was no road there previously. So let's put a road in somebody's backyard. Had it been a 4-lane road in those backyards, near those backyards, the impact would have been even greater. So that was yet another reason to consider the 2-lane roadway.
Intruding onto so many backyards, residents of the area asked the planners to come up with some way to shield their homes from the roadway. Designers decided not to build walls along the new road, which would have created a concrete canyon, as was done on some other recent projects.
We came up with some 2-lane roadway ideas. We kind of sketched out the corridor and looked at what we could do, how we could save some trees, how we could bring the road and the traffic into the middle of the corridor and away from the backyards, how we could bring the sidewalks in, how we could do stormwater in a different manner, and create a corridor that people would like to drive down, that they would enjoy using, that they would enjoy walking.
We came up with the concept of having a wrought iron fence with viburnum. And viburnum, as we all know in Florida, grows like a weed, and it's going to mature and get 6 feet high and provide the screening that they need. Going to be a very attractive system, and it was on par with the cost of a standard masonry solid barrier wall.
The key at this point really is for the county to be able to get the best plants they can, for those plants to be healthy, for them to be fertilized and watered properly, so they will grow up and provide the privacy and security and the sound barrier that the homeowner had before the construction of the road.
That ties in with the other environmentally friendly aspects to the Honore Avenue project. If the roadway had been built with 4 lanes, lots of forested areas would have been cut down. But with only 2 lanes to build, saving trees rather than cutting them down became of paramount importance.
You wouldn't have seen these contours like we see over here on these sodded banks.
The county's arborist, Jeff Wilkinson, viewed it as a chance to save some of the trees that were important in Sarasota County history.
By changing the design of the road from 4 lanes to 2 lanes, we were able to save these pines and oaks you see in back of me. These were barricaded during construction, and some of them were root pruned again to avoid damage from the digging of these retention ponds. A lot of these pines are the old turpentine slash pines. Back in the turpentine mining days, they would take these slash pines, and that's where they got the name slash pine, from these cuts that you see. They would cut a cat face in it, and much like maples in the Northeast, they would drive steel plates up into the tree, and they would collect the resin as it dripped off the tree. Some of these trees, you can see they've actually been slashed on both sides, not this one. This is a practice that ended probably sometime in the 50s, so these trees have been here since then. Originally, this retention pond was designed to be dug right at the base of this tree. This is a 30-inch laurel oak, guessing 30 to 40 years old, and they would have dug within the critical protection zone, which is 3 times the diameter. We don't want to go any closer than that, so we requested that they move the pond about 10 feet to the west, which they did. We came in with our root pruner, and the root pruner makes a clean cut. The roots are never exposed, and the roots will continue to grow in the direction that they were originally. The homeowner was concerned that the tree was going to be damaged. It shades his house. It's really, it's part of his landscape. And we were able to get the contractor to work with us and move this pond over. This pond was scheduled to be expanded so that to increase capacity, and it called for the removal of these trees in back of me. It's a red maple, a live oak, and a false monkey puzzle. We worked with the contractor, and he agreed to expand the pond in a different direction and barricade those trees, and they'll be preserved.
Roadway designers deliberately placed sidewalks and walkways so that they would curve or meander around important trees. And those sidewalks were placed along the roadway with bioswales and rain gardens featuring native Florida plants so important to the ecology of the county. It's called Low Impact Development, or LID. Chris Fellberg was the environmental project manager.
This bioswale has actually had a compost medium placed in the bottom, some mulch on the top, and then has been planted with Florida native plants. And these plants will act as a biological filter, helping remove excess nutrients from the stormwater as it comes off the roadways and other impervious surfaces. This is the Florida native canna lily. It's also called the bandana of the Everglades. There are a lot of species that use this plant. A number of different butterflies and moths will use this plant. It's also a very good one for uptaking of heavy metals, like arsenic and lead. Some of these species, if they're put in polluted water, they can actually purify it to the point of it becoming drinking water.
And that's important in keeping our creeks, rivers, and Sarasota Bay free of pollution. So the Honore Avenue project is now finished, at least for a while. Someday there will be further construction that will extend the road further south into Laurel, where it'll connect with Pinebrook Road, providing a connection all the way to the city of Venice. But that's in the future. For now, there are 2 new lanes of roadway connecting major streets that had never been connected before. There are meandering sidewalks, bioswales, and rain gardens along the way, as well as plenty of old-growth trees. Oh, and there are 6 new roundabouts, too. Honore Avenue has become not just another road, it's become an experience for drivers.
I think most of the project nailed the vision that the community and the board had when they sent us on this several-year trek to build 2 lanes instead of 4 lanes. I think it'll become a standard for our community in the future. I think it'll be a standard for other communities. We have already heard from some that on different widening projects or different improvement projects throughout the county, we want it to look like Honore Avenue. That's the community coming to us saying, yeah, we want it to look like that corridor. We want it to be like that corridor. And that says something for the project. It says something for the vision that the board and the community had.